What a game we got here. Bills trying to pull out some heroics.
They go to push him over the goal line, and he is in. The Eagles get a taste of their own medicine with a tush push. Bills need the two-point conversion for the win. Allen fires to the end zone, and he misses.
It comes down to us executing, making one more play than they did, and we didn't make that last play. Had to make that last play.
Didn't make the last play. That's right. Josh Allen and the Bills may have lost to the Eagles, costing them a shot at the AFC East, but Allen still had a great year. For the third straight season, he has at least 25 passing TDs and 10 touchdown runs. All other players in NFL history have combined to put up those numbers just 2 times. Cam Newton did it in 2015 and Kyler Murray did it in 2020. And so, Graz, can Josh Allen carry the Bills to the postseason?
Yeah, look at those numbers. Absolutely, he can. But he has to be healthy. And that foot right now is not healthy.
Super
He
Bowl.
aggravated.
I'm sorry, not postseason, Super Bowl. Go ahead.
Well, either way, they're in the postseason, but
Right.
that foot has to be right. I'm not one who advocates for sitting down players that are healthy in Week 18.
Yeah.
He's not. And I think the Bills should seriously consider holding him out of this last game, as much as he'll want to play to keep his streak alive, as much as he'll want to play the last game in that stadium, et cetera. It is much more important that he feels as good as he can possibly feel the following week, and I think that's something the Bills have to consider here as they head into Week 18. Because, yeah, they could adjust their seeding. They could be the 5 or the 6 or the 7, but ultimately that's not as important as having a fully healthy Josh Allen for the playoffs.
It's funny, we asked this question on the other side in the NFC with the Rams, and I feel a little bit more confident in them because of what's around them as a team. I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the AFC, and it's not even a question of what his ability is. As we look at those numbers, 25 passing, 10, all of that, we've seen him play fantastic in the playoffs with a better team surrounding him. I look at this team this year, and even you go back to Sunday's game against the Eagles, in the second half, in the fourth quarter, he gets it going. He's able to get them down there. They scored a touchdown. He misses the throw. Josh Allen has to play so perfect.
Yes.
For this team to reach their potential, and that is so much to ask of a player every given week for them to have to go on the road and do that. Yes, James Cook has been unbelievable in the run game. He's been the best in the NFL. But you look at the supporting cast. There were moments where the Eagles just went man-to-man and everybody's covered and Josh Allen is forced to run around. Who is going to be the go-to receiver for him to be able to throw the ball to late in the fourth quarter on a third down situation? That's my fear for this Buffalo Bills team. It has nothing to do with Josh Allen's ability and who he is as a quarterback. We know how good he is. We have watched that for numerous years. Hell, I had to play against him for numerous years and have to try to defend against that maniac with the ball in his hands. But I just don't. It's going to be so hard and so difficult for them to be able to get to the Super Bowl. And I know this is a year where there's potentially no Lamar Jackson. There's no Joe Burrow. There's no Patrick Mahomes. And from the outside looking in at just the quarterback position, that means that this should be his season. But when you look at the totality of that roster, what's in the locker room, and you compare it around the AFC, he is going to have to do the most with the smallest amount in that locker room for them to be able to reach the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's got to figure it out. What we've seen so far is that he does not have sort of, as you talked about, when you have a Texans or an Eagles that can just load up a front four and you don't have wide receivers who can get open. That is a huge problem for him. But he's got to figure this thing out. When I'm looking at this Bills team, I'm looking at 4 uphill matchups at the very least just within the AFC playoffs. We saw what the Texans did to them already. I'm feeling that the Broncos defensively can do the same thing. And then on their own defensive end, I don't think they can stop the Jaguars offensively. We already saw that they couldn't stop the Patriots offensively. Of course, Josh Allen took the team on his back and won that game. He's going to have to do that 4 times for them to win a championship. If he does, it's one of the most miraculous things we've ever seen from a quarterback. But otherwise, I just don't see them being able to do it.
He's led the team in passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns the last 5 seasons. He's used to putting this team on his back, if you will. Now, to your point, the Bills play the Jets the last week of the season. Do you agree that he should sit this game out?
So I think he'll start the game for sure. He has a streak going. It's going to be the last game in that stadium. But, yes, in that game, once he starts, you get him in and you get him out. I think you play Mitch Trubisky in this game, the backup quarterback, to allow Josh Allen to rest. What we're talking about, if he can go on a historic run, like this changes the entire narrative around Josh Allen. But in order for him to do that, he needs to be 100% going into that game. So, yes, Week 18 against the Jets, where it's not going to change so much. And, hell, Mitch Trubisky going against the Jets, like they may feel okay with that.
Yeah.
I would rest him. I would rest him the whole game. I know you got
the first start.
I know. I understand the starts and all that stuff. because you think about even getting them ready to play, you got to be on that foot and practice and doing those things, even if it's just for, a little bit. He needs to rest that foot. That seems to be the thing. You need 2 weeks to do that. You're going to beat the Jets. I think you can beat the Jets no matter who you roll out there. We've seen, enough of a sample size to believe that. He should be able to rest because this is bigger. This is your shot. This is your window to get to the Super Bowl, and you don't want any sort of tweak on the foot. You don't have to get sacked to hurt your foot. You can just be out there playing and something bad could happen.
That's what I'm saying. You get him out there for the first series and then the foot rolls the wrong way. If you think there's any chance of him making that thing worse by being on the field, you cannot let him near that field. If you think there's any chance of making it better by taking a week off and resting, then you have to make sure you take a week off and rest him. That game is irrelevant. I know. I have full respect to the Buffalo fans and the stadium and all that kind of stuff and the streak. You're trying to win a championship.
Yeah, I mean,
Buffalo fans, at the end of the season, are they going to say we're happy that Josh Allen played the last game when we win the Super Bowl? I think we know what they'll say.
So in that same vein now, if for some reason Josh Allen and the Bills cannot figure this thing out with a wide open AFC, as we've talked about, no Mahomes, no Joe Burrow, maybe no Lamar Jackson, would it be a failure if the Bills don't win the Super Bowl?
It'll be a failure for the team in a sense of, you go all the way back to September. We were saying they had the easiest schedule and they were probably the most likely to be the number 1 seed. But I think overall, it won't be a failure by the franchise to Josh Allen in a sense of year in and year out, they have tried to do everything to give him the type of team. We watched him trade for Amari Cooper last year. We've seen him this year trying to bring Brandon Cooks in. We watched him draft Keon Coleman. They went out and they paid Von Miller to come over after he won a championship with the Rams. This year, they paid Bosa to come over. So we continue to see Brandon, being the general manager, go after players and try to secure enough talent around Josh Allen to win the Super Bowl. So I do think, yes, in a grand scheme, you'll say, wow, we thought this team was going to be better. It's a failure in that sense. But I think when we start to have that conversation, when we're saying the Cincinnati Bengals, have they failed Joe Burrow with the amount of hits and things of that nature, I don't think Josh Allen, with his greatness, has been failed by the organization because they have done everything to try to surround him with the talent needed.
I felt like they could have gotten another receiver at the trade deadline. They could have added more weapons they didn't do that.
But they tried. I felt like the names that were being mentioned to be able to get traded, we were talking about guys like Garrett Wilson, different players, and not Garrett Wilson, but different players that they possibly could have gotten.
Waddle.
You need Miami to want to trade Jalen Waddle within the division to Buffalo, which I didn't see that happening.
We could talk about all the trades and all the moves they could possibly have. This is about Josh Allen. Josh Allen not getting to the Super Bowl would be the biggest failure of his career.
Even with what's around him?
You could talk about what's around him. It would be miraculous for them to win the AFC. But miraculous is what great players do, right? Miraculous is what you have to do. We've seen Mahomes do miraculous things with that team to get them to the Super Bowl. All this time that we've been talking about Josh Allen in the playoffs, we've been saying the one thing that has been standing in his way is Patrick Mahomes. You get a mulligan because you can't beat Patrick Mahomes. We understand it. If you're up with 13 seconds left and Patrick Mahomes does magical things. He is not there anymore. And on top of that, we are in a playoffs where there are no great teams. There's not a single great team. There's not a juggernaut in the playoffs on any side. And if one person should be good enough to try to get a team, all the deficiencies that you have, all the deficiencies that we talked about, the lack of receivers, great quarterbacks throughout the history of this league have done that before. Josh Allen, if he wants to be in the annals of those great quarterbacks, he needs to be able to do this year.
I think when you mentioned the Patrick Mahomes piece of it, we've seen him carry offenses that have had less. Yeah. We've also seen Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, and that defense carry them throughout the course of a season and win ball games for them. I don't know that Josh Allen has that. You look across the playoffs, yes, you can say that there are no great teams, but I think you can also look at Buffalo and say amongst all of the teams in the playoffs or in the AFC to that extent, Josh Allen may have the worst supporting cast when you compare the defenses and the weapons that surround him. So I think, yes, in one sense, only looking at the quarterback position, you say, Josh Allen, it's a failure if you don't do it. When you look at the entire locker room, though, that's where the conversation changes for me.
They might not be a great team, but they are going to be, I think, by far the most postseason experienced team in the AFC playoff field. And I think they believe that'll work to their advantage. They don't know how the Patriots or the Broncos are going to do in a close postseason game. They've been there. The biggest failure, like I think it was a bigger failure 2 years ago when they had the Chiefs in their building and couldn't close them out. Buffalo Bills are not a team that needs, a handicap to win. Like, they should be able to beat the Chiefs. And the fact that they haven't is not like some organizational failing of theirs. They have built a monster team. And I think if they win this Super Bowl, great. But I don't think it's necessarily like the biggest failure they've had if they don't, just because Mahomes isn't there. I think last year, the team they had going into the playoffs, they thought was good enough to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. It didn't. The year before, when the Chiefs were there in Buffalo and they had them and they needed to make that kick at the end, that's the one that would stick with me if I'm a Bills fan.
It feels like a lot of letdowns, though, in Buffalo, and this would feel like another one, right? If